privilege of this last week. We had 1,500 pastors come to Baton Rouge. It's called the Ark Covenant. They had a lot of different pastors around the country come. I heard one of the preachers talk about the fact that a lot of times you get together and you don't want to share your negatives. Art Williams always taught us to pass the negatives up and the positives down. I had the privilege of being reporting basically directly to Art Williams, so you didn't pass any negatives up, so you just learned to eat the negatives. And I don't think that's always bad. But he was talking about these three pastors got together and they were sitting around talking. They wanted to share each other's indiscretions. And so one of them said, well, I'll go first. And he said, okay, what is yours? And he said, well, I have an anger management problem. He said, sometimes when I'm in traffic, he said, I get a little angry and then I tend to start cussing. I end up giving my favorite finger and things turn bad. I want to fight and all that. So they're sitting around. The other guy said, okay, well, I'll go next. And he said, what's yours? And he said, well, I tend to be, I'm a closet smoker. He said, I smoke. And they were like, oh, Lord. He said, even once in a while, I tend to even smoke a little of the marijuana. And they started, the guy said, oh, Lord. So the next guy, he was going last, and they couldn't figure out what his was going to be, so he's going to go last. And he said, what about you? And he said, I'm a compulsive gossiper. I can't wait till this conversation's over. Now, the purpose of that is for you. I hope you can't wait for this to be over so you go out and share everything you got here, because that's the name of the game. You know, as I get a chance to travel and speak, it's always fun. It's always exciting, because a lot of people ask me, what makes you keep going? Matter of fact, my son Blake and Lindsay, his wife, were over here in Dallas this past weekend. They were doing a meeting for Josh Huffman and Bill Arinder, and Lindsay said that one of the questions was asked, why did your dad keep going? Because we've had a fortune, and by the grace of God, a lot of hard work to accumulate a lot of wealth, to make a lot of money, but also to accumulate a lot of money. And we don't need the money anymore. We still take the money, okay? But we don't need the money anymore. And yet I've learned that money is relevant. You know what I'm talking about? The more money you got, the more relevance you have. But as we start making money, what we really start realizing as we start accumulating money also, not only can you have all the great luxuries of life, and I think you need to have those. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you can afford it. When you're living below your means, you can save and invest your money and then buy the things. Les and I saved our first $1 million in cash after 4 years of the business. We didn't really raise our standard of living. We continued to live below our standard of living until we really became totally financially independent. I would encourage you to do the same thing. And these are the principles that Art Williams taught us. And so, once you start accumulating money, but you also find out there's a lot of other people. And I heard a good friend of mine, Bob Stafford, said you can't make a financial impact on people until you become financially independent. And I would encourage you, every time my son goes to speak, the one thing I tell him, go make an impact. Go make an impact. And I think that's what Primerica has done for a lot of your lives. And I think you'll end up doing it for a lot of other people's lives. And so that brings me to my topic today. Is, why do we do this thing? Why do we continue to do this thing? And I read a book and I shared it with the company several years ago. It's called Beyond the Summit by Todd Skinner. I advise you to get it. It's going to be hard to find. You have to go on Amazon and get it. It's a phenomenal book. And when I think about why do certain people in the company, why do they continue to go way after they've reached what other people would consider the summit? They've hit the top of the mountain. They've become wealthy, become financially independent. They got all the nice cars, the homes, the travel. They've really been successful. Why did they continue to climb? Why did they continue the ascent? Why don't they just kind of cool it? And one of the most famous mountain climbing stories that I ever heard, which is true, and most of you all have heard that story, it was by Sir Hilary Edmonds. He was standing at the bottom of what they call base camp. And he was looking at Mount Everest, and he tried to climb it, and he got beat several times. The mountain actually beat him. And I want you to think about what I'm saying, because the mountain rarely ever beats you. Primerica really doesn't beat people. People beat themselves. People quit. People give up. But Primerica will not beat you. Primerica cannot beat you. And it's the same thing that Sir Edmund said of that mountain. He said, you beat me once, you beat me twice, but you can't beat me forever, because you've stopped growing and I can continue to grow. And so when I think about why do people keep staying after Primerica after they reach what they consider, you might consider the top of the summit? Why do they go, like the book's title, Beyond the Summit? And I thought about that this morning. I got on a plane. Hollis and I had the same plane. We had a 6 o'clock flight, so at 4 o'clock you wake up and do all the things you do around the house, and then you get yourself ready to go and you catch the flight. On the airplane was one of my agents. She's actually in the terminal. I started talking to her as one of my agent's spouse. And she's getting ready to board the same plane I'm getting ready to board, not come here, but go to her job. She's flying into a small place in Oklahoma. She's renting a car, and then she's driving for 3 more hours. She had some jeans on, a t-shirt. She's an engineer, very talented, very skilled, very educated lady, incredible human being, but she's absolutely not dead gorgeous. And I'm thinking, she said, the reason she was apologizing, the reason I'm dressed like this, she said, when I land, she said, I'm going to rent the car, drive 3 hours, and she said, then I'm going to put a jumpsuit on, I'm going to put my heavy gloves on, my boots on, I'm going out in the field and work with a bunch of oil field guys. She said, now think about this. She said, I said, when will you be home? She said, if I'm lucky, Friday. I hope I'll be home Friday because my son has his birthday Friday. Immediately, when I landed, I texted and called her husband, who's worked with my agents, and I said, we've got a job to do. This can't continue to happen. Now, if she wants to continue to happen, it's like some people are saying about maybe retiring your spouse. That's if your spouse wants to retire. And if you don't want to do your full-time job, you want to do a full-time job, by all means, that might become your mountain to climb. That might be your summit. But I know for a fact this family doesn't want this woman to keep working. And so for me, that's another summit. That's another mountain. That's another goal I have. Jason Gills, one of our city vice presidents, he just found out him and Christian are having another child. It's a boy. He had a little something to do with it. And some of y'all get that in a minute. And one thing he doesn't have to worry about whether he's going to miss his son's birthday. Kyle's getting ready to have a little girl. You heard that, MJ. And the one thing Kyle doesn't have to worry about is he going to miss her birthday. See, in Primerica, I don't know what your mountains are going to be, but I'm going to take you through some things this book talked about. But it's got to be, once you get yours, or once you're getting yours, then you got to go beyond that. That's what the book talks about, right? So number one of the things it talks about is you got to pick your mountain. And like Caleb did at 80 years old, the biblical principle, Caleb said, God, give me that mountain. He didn't choose a small mountain, he chose a big mountain. In Bible study the other day, we were talking about don't make a mountain out of a molehill. You see a lot of people do that. They gripe and complain about small things. I see them do it with their children. They wonder why they don't have great relationships with their children. And I tell people, if it's not a deal breaker, get over it, lighten up a little bit, right? I see them do that in business. But what I'm talking about, don't make a mountain out of a molehill, is for you to think that you got a big summit, you got a big mountain. In reality, you chose a small mountain. Primerica can give you anything you want. You need to start thinking out of the box. In America, we don't have a problem in America with thinking too big. We don't have a problem in America, in my personal opinion, by being greedy. We got a problem in America by settling and thinking too small. In Primerica, it's the same way. We don't have people in Primerica. We don't have a problem with people thinking too big and wanting too much. We got a problem in Primerica with people accepting too little. They climb a little bitty mountain and they think they go to the top of Mount Everest. We got to start thinking a lot bigger than what we've been thinking. I don't care how big we've been thinking. We've got to think bigger. Somebody called me yesterday and congratulated me about being #1 in the company right now, income-wise. And I said, well, I appreciate that, but it doesn't mean nothing to me. It's because everybody's playing so small right now. If everybody's playing the top of their game, then I feel good about it. But I love it like when Tiger Woods not in the tournament, big deal if you win a tournament. If Michael Jordan didn't play or LeBron James didn't play against the Celtics, big deal if the Celtics beat him if he's injured. You want to play at a different level, right? We've all got to start thinking about going to a different level, right? So choose your mountain. Be bold in choosing your mountain. Choose a big summit, something that's going to challenge you as a climber to be the very best you can be, because climbing a mountain is not about just climbing a mountain. Being successful in business, not just kind of being successful in business, it's what it makes you as you're ascending to the top. It's what it makes you as a human being. You cut the mountain in half, you cut yourself in half. You want a big mountain. You want a big challenge. You want something that's going to take you to a whole new level as a human being. Number two, he talks about, and by the way, somebody kind of alluded to this earlier, but I know this. Every time, and I'm sure some of y'all feel the same way, this thing looks impossible. If you're just sitting here and you think about, how do I go from scratch? And I've actually got in my entire hierarchy, because I got 3 codes, I've got 300 vice presidents, 7,000 agents. And last year we paid $3.75 million from just our business, our investment capital. And that sounds pretty impressive. But you know what? My first managers meeting, we did it at Shoney's in a booth, and there was plenty of room. Okay? My business started the same way your business did, but I had something I wanted to do. I had a summit. I had a mountain. I had something on my mind that I wanted to accomplish.